On behalf of all assembled here today, I should now like to invite our newest alumna, Dr. Joanne Leavey, to address Convocation.
Dr. Leshade, Mr. President, Chancellor, distinguished members of the board and faculty, it is a great honor and privilege to be here at Western today, along with fellow honorees, alumni, special guests, family members, and friends. Most of all, I'm honored to be with you, the graduates, as part of your commencement from one of the best universities in Canada. Congratulations to all of you, as each of you have taken your first step in daring to make change happen and to be part of the future. With a focus on education and change, today I would like to share with you 3 stories about my life, along with a few observations. Before I do, however, I want to acknowledge that yes, I have degrees, diplomas, certificates, letters, research, and all the rest of it, with more than a dozen universities and post-secondary educational institutions, as far away as Bangladesh, the University of Melbourne, and closer to home, Washington State University, the University of British Columbia, and of course, Western. But this has only been a quarter of my education, and it has taken a good part of a lifetime to achieve. And I might add, with great comment from some. For example, I have heard, "What the heck are you doing with all that education?" Funny, I thought the usual line was, "Why don't you go to university and get yourself educated?" However, the line I would most often hear over my life is, "Why do you keep going to university?" Well, I'm about to articulate, and know that at the outset, since the age of 10, I've always thought to myself, I'm going to get as much education as I possibly can throughout my life so I can give it away. And since then, it's sort of gone to plan. I've obviously taken the idea of lifelong learning to the extreme. Let me share my 3 stories that provide some insight as to where I've walked and what I've learned. The stories address early life, the setup, adult life, the development, and adult life, the now. First story, my early life. I started my education in music at the age of 5 and was teaching at the Ontario Conservatory of Music with full youth and adult classes by the time I was 11. Okay, what did I learn? It's important to dare to learn, dare to risk, dare to succeed. And I did. I ended up being a qualified teacher by the age of 11. I learned from my adult and youth students that the relationship between us was the most important factor in the learning, not my age and not theirs. I was not a typical teacher given my age, but I had something to share, my knowledge. My learners were not always typical either. Some had special needs, and most were a lot older than I, but they had something to share. They taught me grace, patience, compassion, humility. I moved on to graduating from Catholic Central High School. I was chosen from my graduating class to go to Moosonee, Ontario as a camp counselor as part of the CCH Student Leadership and Excellence Program. Spending the summer working with Cree children and their parents. What did I learn? I was 17 years of age and not a typical person to the Moosonee region. I was a southwestern Ontario woman who was naive, but willing to learn. The campers were not typical to me either, as they were special, smart, compassionate, and we were from different cultural contexts. What did I learn? It was the relationships that developed that created the change that occurred in all of us. And the campers, their parents, and my team taught me grace, patience, compassion, humility. Second story, my developing adult life. I started pursuing higher education. I was instantly addicted to the love of learning, and my dream was bearing out. The more I learned, the more I could give away through working, teaching, and volunteering. In my developing adult life, I was blessed with being able to work directly with people, either providing care or at the executive level, planning, creating policy, funding, researching, and developing mental health and primary care programs across Canada and eventually around the world. What continued to be in my head during this process? The more I can learn, the more I can give away. What a fabulous privilege education. It continuously fueled my desire to keep going, learning, to keep advocating for change, to share what I'd learned so far, to keep volunteering my time and resources at home and around the globe, helping people in situations with limited or no resources. I knew I couldn't stop. The impact of my work and the work of the teams I'd been lucky enough to be a part of, providing public, mental, and medical health care and resources to under-resourced regions and people, has given me experiences and perspectives that parallel no other in terms of understanding individuals, communities, and broader societal needs. Some examples: volunteering in Haiti once or twice a year providing medical treatment to thousands of patients who are too poor to access health care. Volunteer teaching for nurses, doctors, and engineers at IUBAT University in Bangladesh, addressing public health and environmental problems such as poverty, lack of education, waste management, vector control, and the lack of any mental or primary health care resources for the desperately poor. I also have volunteered with a psychoanalytic teaching for graduate students and psychiatrists in 8 cities and universities in China through teleeducation. So what did I learn? Grace, patience, compassion, humility. And it is the relationships with others that create change and make future. Third story, life now, amazing. Remember I told you about all those degrees, affiliations, etc.? Well, you probably assume that the school portion of my life is over. Wrong. I've just accepted to complete a doctorate of nursing practice at Case Western University. I will focus on how public health, culture, equity, gender, economics, environment, and geographical access to health resource impact health status in regions and populations that are under-resourced. Again, another exciting chapter is opening, one where I can continue to work, live, and volunteer. Continue to be blessed to learn, grow, and give. And what do I hope? The lessons that I've learned so far continue to bear out. The importance of grace, patience, compassion, and humility. And that I continue to count on the relationship with others to create change and make future. Now let's take this experience to a different level. My experience has not been typical. Apple celebrates the concept of misfit. I would like to think about this concept more as someone who dares to not fit, by choice, using not fitting as a way to think of change through possibility, rather than be limited to cloying rules that only offer barriers to evolution and better ways of doing things. I like this quote from Steve Jobs and Apple. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius, because people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones that do. So how do non-fitters make change? One word: education. Education is all about change. Why do we learn? Not to do things just because that's the way it's always been done, or the policy or rule says so. Rules and policies are made at points in time to help guide us in our particular areas of expertise, until we find better ways in which to help people or get things done. New theories are based on new perspectives, new ways in which to deliver a service or educative practice. Theories can then bear out in change. But how do we get new theory? By observation, by listening, by experience, by practice, by understanding common knowledge, by reading about what others are doing, both theoretically and practically. This is called change through lifelong learning. So what are your takeaways today? You've got your start now in education with your new degrees. It's a privilege. Don't stop. Embrace the qualities that are required to be the change for the future. Dare to be innovative, dare to be grateful, dare to work hard, dare to be different. Dare to speak up when you see a wrong, not just with words, but with actions. Things don't change if we are only critical. They change when we are able to consider the situation and then take action. Advocate, educate, be a role model for what change is needed. Each of us has that power. The power to be true to what is right and just. The power to offer help versus turn a blind eye. To educate versus retaliate. Offer friendship and compassion versus judgment and dismissiveness. Reach out and make good choices. Keep your attitudes positive. This is the higher road, yes. Does it take more effort? Yes. Does it provide greater rewards? Yes. Because that is what it takes to make change. Effort, attitude, thankfulness, compassion, and friendship. This is where societies thrive and war and violence are muted. Only through education, learning, and teaching throughout lifetimes can we keep healthy, strong, productive, and thriving as individuals and as societies, no matter who we are or where we are in the world. Dare to not accept what's impossible. Dare to make it possible. Take your dreams with you today. Create change and make future. Never look back, and be the best non-fitter you can be. Thank you.